You see football predictions all over the place, right? But have you ever really stopped to think about what goes into a good one? It's definitely not just about picking a winner. So today, we're going to pull back the curtain and really deconstruct the method, the actual system behind the analyst's picks. Okay, this sentence right here, this is our key. It's the whole philosophy in a nutshell. This tells us it's not about luck, it's about a deliberate framework built on 4 pillars: form, squad strength, motivation, and context. This is the foundation for everything we're about to look at, so let's get into it. So here's our game plan. First, we'll unpack that toolkit itself. Then we're going to put those tools to the test with 3 real-world case studies: a classic mismatch, a game where motivation is the deciding factor, and a match all about that home advantage. And then at the end, we'll see how it all comes together. All right, so first up, what's actually in this predictors toolkit? Well, any solid analysis, it doesn't matter if it's sports or finance, relies on a consistent framework. It's all about having a repeatable process you can apply to any situation. And here they are, the 4 pillars. It kicks off with form. Are they on a winning streak or can they not buy a win? Then you've got squad strength, the raw on-paper talent. Next, and this one is so important, is motivation. What's really at stake for this team in this specific game? And finally, competition context. Is this a must-win trophy or maybe a chance to give the star players a rest? You can really see the logic here. It's like a funnel the analyst uses for every single match. Let's move on to our first case study and see this in action. This one is all about decoding the mismatch. This is probably the easiest factor to spot. What happens when one team is just, worlds apart from their opponent in terms of quality? What's so interesting here is the language. Just look at the key indicators. Superior quality, gap is huge, mismatch. The analyst is basically flagging these as classic David versus Goliath matchups. When a top-tier team like Athletic Bilbao is playing a lower league side, that prediction is driven almost entirely by that one pillar, a huge gap in squad strength. It's the system at its most pure. But, okay, what happens when that quality gap isn't so obvious? When 2 pretty good teams are facing off? Well, that's when the next pillar, motivation, becomes absolutely critical. And a lot of times, that motivation is tied directly to the competition itself. Some teams just care more about certain trophies. And these clubs are perfect examples of that. The analyst specifically calls out teams like Galatasaray and FC Porto because, for them, the domestic cup isn't just some sideshow, it's a real target. The analysis literally says they take this one seriously. So the whole question shifts from who's the better team to who wants it more, right here, right now. Okay, let's look at our final pattern here, what I like to call the fortress effect. This is where context meets another huge factor, because especially in those big European competitions, playing at home can be an unbelievable advantage, both tactically and psychologically. 7. Just look at that number. 7 home wins were predicted in the Conference League games from this source. Now, that is not random. That is a clear pattern that the analyst has spotted, a really significant bias towards the home team in this particular tournament. And this just proves it's not some generic home advantage call. The analyst gets into the specifics. For AEK Athens, it's about the intensity and crowd pressure. For AEK Larnaca, it's that they're very disciplined at home. See? Each prediction is tied to a specific reason why that stadium is a fortress. So we've seen the individual pieces in action, right? The quality gap, the motivation factor, the home fortress. Now, let's put it all together and see how these things combine to create a really confident, well-reasoned prediction. And this right here, this is the key takeaway. The strongest predictions, they're not based on just one thing. They're an equation. When you get that squad strength, plus the motivation, plus the context, all pointing in the exact same direction, that's when the analyst starts using words like banker or confident pick. It's when all the pillars just line up perfectly. And the analyst closes with a final, really important thought on mindset. Understanding the method is one thing, but actually applying it takes discipline. That advice to bet smart, manage your bankroll, isn't just about money. It's a reminder that this is a systematic approach, not an emotional one. It's about sticking to the framework. So now I'm going to turn it over to you. Using this 4-pillar framework we just walked through, what matchup immediately comes to your mind? What game feels like a confident pick when you filter it through this system? It's a great way to start thinking like an analyst. Go ahead and let us know what's your strongest pick.